welcome to the Biz Coach Show, hosted by my Biz Coaches and presented by the TLG Group. Here we are all about providing entrepreneurs with the edge they need to succeed. Your hosts, as always, are David Macon, that's me, and Eric Whitmore. Eric, you want to say hi to everybody?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Awesome. Hey, and Eric, thanks for joining. I know you're a little under the weather today, but appreciate you honoring our commitment to do this. So thanks for sticking it out.
Absolutely. We're gonna stick to this routine of every week, right?
That's it. Yeah. Absolutely. So awesome. Well, hey, thanks for listening today, and we want to welcome you to our first episode. Today, we want to talk about kind of the genesis of the podcast, kind of show a little bit about who we are, why are we putting this show together, and really want to start with that. And then also share a little bit about our individual backgrounds. And most of our shows, we're going to be talking about issues facing entrepreneurs, maybe trends, things like that. But for today, I want you to know, hey, who are these guys and, why should I listen to them, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about. And then we're going to talk just a little bit about our businesses that we operate and how that ties into our show and how we help clients through those businesses. And then finally, I'll give you a little sample of what you can expect in future episodes. And so just to kind of start things off, I'll share about just kind of how Eric and I came into this, partnership that we've got here on the show and several other business endeavors. But Eric and I met in the early 2000s. We were both working for a wireless retailer at the time. And when we started working there, it was a 10-store retail operation. We helped scale that to over 140 locations across the U.S. in under 10 years. And at the end of the day, when that business sold, it was valued at over $80 million. And so during that journey, we worked really closely together, really kind of came up with some systems, some tools, some processes, some concepts that really helped that transformational growth and have continued to serve us well after we left that business and went on to do other things. And so since then, Eric and I have worked together on various projects over the last 15 years. And one of the things that we've always enjoyed is just getting together, whether that's a phone call, a virtual meeting like this, or in person, and talking about current trends in business and the marketplace, brainstorming ideas together. We always just have fun with that, and maybe nerding out over that a little, Eric, I might say. And then also, and also talking about maybe share challenges with our clients and discussing different solutions. And so those conversations really led to this show, and wanted to collaborate, but capture those conversations because we think there's value there for entrepreneurs or maybe people who are thinking about starting a business or people that have had a business for a long time but are struggling to scale it. And so we're going to capture those conversations in this show. And I think really at the end of the day, it's all about our combined experience coming together to make something great that we can share with others and provide that practical real world advice. And so that's just a little bit about kind of our collective background, but we want to take it one step further and talk about our individual background. So Eric, do you mind just sharing a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. And we did a lot for like an hour and a half for my section, right?
Yeah, should have.
Being the more senior of the two of us, I probably take just an extra minute or two, but yeah.
There you go. I'll graciously allow.
I appreciate that. So so I'll start off with, because it's relevant, in high school I was an active athlete. I probably never peaked within my skill set, and so because of that, it kind of plays into my career a little bit. Right out of high school, I did a series of odd jobs. I ended up I worked in a steel mill factory. I loaded trucks. You name it. I did all kinds of odd jobs trying to figure out what I was going to do. I spent a year saving up to go to college. And at the same time, I had a unique situation in my life, a car accident actually, that led me joining the Army National Guard. And so in 1988, I went to basic training. I graduated top of my class of basic and AIT. And then fast forward 9 months later, you guys might be familiar with a little skirmish over in Kuwait.
I think I heard some about it.
Yeah, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And so anyway, that kind of derailed my college a little bit for a period of time. But I continued with the odd jobs. I was a bartender, whatever I could do to make some good money, and enjoyed that path. And then decided, hey, I really need to settle down here and get serious about my life. In 92, I had moved out to Arizona for the first time from Pennsylvania, and I started a distribution business. and did quite well with that. Was able to scale that up. Enjoyed that. I now, mind you, I was in my early 20s, and I had to start that business. I would get up in the morning at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to be on the loading dock by 4:30. So at literally 21, 22 years old, that was where I was, instead of out partying like everybody else. But at the same time, I was super passionate about kickboxing. I got into kickboxing. My career took off. I won a number of titles. I also leveraged that success to partner up with a local martial arts school and become a part owner in that school. And we scaled up that business. We went from just short of 100 students to like 300 students over the course of 2 years. And a lot of that growth was the leverage of, and I learned early on about marketing. Every time I fought, we would see a 20% lift in people joining the gym. So I recognized that there was a lot of value in the marketing and knowing how to market yourself. And so I leveraged that going in. The business was continuing to grow. However, I recognized I was like, after 2 years of working probably 60 plus hour weeks, I was like, I'm kind of burned out. There's got to be a better way to do this. I knew that I was good at what I was doing, but I knew there had to be a better way. So I decided I was going to sold my business, went to college finally at 24. And while I was in college, I realized that as much as I was excited about my college endeavors, I realized that I had become accustomed to making a 6-figure income. And that was really tough to do when you had school. So I started a business while I was in school. And that became a path that was something that really kind of resonated with me over the next 30 years. Literally, I started a number of small businesses on the side concurrently while I was working in many cases. But I became very passionate about being an entrepreneur and the entrepreneurial path. So that says a lot about what I do today, and it kind of plays out as my career develops. But I did, while I was in college, I did fight for the United States. I won the United States light heavyweight title. And then I fought for the world title in 95. I lost on a split decision, and that really kind of set me on the course of where I was going to go and what I was going to focus on for the rest of my life. While I was in school, I did accounting. I got an internship my junior year, and I was just like, this is not fun. Don't want to do this. So I pivoted to finance. And although that didn't end up being what I did as a career, it was super valuable. And I think a lot of people discredit certain things. A lot of people are like, I don't like math, so I don't want to do accounting. But understanding the numbers of a business really helps when you are an independent business owner. Having that kind of insight and knowledge is super valuable. So anyway, helped me a lot. Later on, because I needed to continue to work, I got a job in retail. A couple of years of that was a good experience. But then I got my way into wireless retail, and the first company I worked for was the 5th largest paging carrier in the nation. That was back in 1998. And they were just pivoting into cell phones. So it was early days of big bag phones and brick phones and all that fun stuff. But it was an interesting transition. I learned a lot. I accelerated in sales. I quickly moved into sales leadership. And then from there, I got a promotion to the LA market, which was our number 2 market in the nation. I doubled sales within the first 6 months of being in that role. A ton of success. Consequently, that company was financially not set up well. And I saw the writing on the wall. I took an opportunity with a new company, and I moved to Seattle. Became as a regional sales manager in Seattle for a company that was launching a Singular brand. You guys might remember Singular before, quite a bit of years ago. But I launched 26 stores in 19 months. So pretty aggressive growth. It was pretty much my own project. I reported directly to the owner, and during that phase of growth, learned a lot about developing people, adding new people, hiring people, training people. And I literally did everything, even some of the tech stuff as far as getting our stores up and running and everything like that. But all of that really kind of set the benchmark for my next series of opportunities. And when after doing that for 2.5 years, the owner asked me to come back to LA. We were struggling in the LA market. I made major improvements, again, doubled performance about 6 months into it. And then we reached a peak of about $250 million a year in gross sales. So helped the company grow dramatically. I had 60 stores in the LA market, just to give you some perspective of how much bandwidth I had. And then I moved to Phoenix from LA, and I took over what was an AT&T venture, which we knew was going to be positioned. Singular was going to acquire AT&T. So we launched stores in Phoenix and Salt Lake, and I ran those two markets while running the Vegas market for Singular. And so it was just kind of an interesting dynamic. I had both business models at the same time, and we literally had to process our own commissions because inside the company they were prepared for Singular. AT&T was an offshot. We only had like 18 stores with AT&T, but it was such a stretch that my team had to do everything ourselves. And so I say that to really help people understand that we've done so many different things, from not just sales and sales leadership, but also the operations, the back end, the commissions, the accounting, all of that kind of came into play. And that led to then a couple of years later, that company, I again saw the writing on the wall, recognized there was an opportunity to make a move. I started my own wireless dealership. I built that to 9 stores. We were grossing about $1 million a year. However, I did that in a time that wasn't ideal. If you remember 2008, there was a little bit of an
economic hiccup, right?
Yeah, just a slight hiccup, yeah. And consequently, that was probably my undoing. I was undercapitalized for the growth, and consequently ended up having to shut it down. But that led to your and my meeting at that dealer, the carrier that we work for. Launched initially as a not Verizon, what was it?
Alltel.
Yeah, Alltel, right. And then a Verizon acquired Alltel, and we became a T-Mobile dealer. But to your point, we mentioned the exit there. It was a phenomenal opportunity for us to learn and grow. We 10 stores to 140 stores, and it was a lot of learning there as well. So as much as I knew going into that, I think one of the best things that I learned from our owners, Todd, Darren, and Jeff, was the amount of leeway they gave me to work on professional development. And it was my time at Express. And I know, David, you can relate to this because we spoke about this a great deal. And really, I think kind of helped me pivot. I went from being a sales manager, sales leader, to really becoming a people development person.
Yeah.
And I focused all my time and energy. I stopped really training sales. I mean, we still train sales. I actually let you do that. You probably did that better than I did at that point. But I really pivoted my time and energy into developing people, developing more leaders. And that really kind of changed my notion of what I wanted to focus on, what I wanted to do. That led me down a path of becoming a certified life coach, eventually pivoted from a life coach into a business coach. But when we had our exit in 2017 from that company, I went out and I used some of that money and started a trucking business. It was the fastest growing private trucking business in the nation. And in 11 months, we had 26 trucks, and we're doing $500,000 a month. However, I was unprepared. I was not completely capitalized for that kind of growth, and recognized one of the biggest challenges that a lot of small business owners run into, which is the fact that if you're not capitalized well, you really undo your business quickly with that kind of growth. And I certainly had a new appreciation for what we did at Express, because that was it was a lot of fun, really challenging, lots of extra time and energy putting into the business. But the downside to it is it didn't play out the way I wanted it to, right? So I ended up having to shut that down. But what I realized at that point, I'd already acquired or started 14 different businesses at that point. And I realized that I had a lot of experience with small business. I had a lot of people asking me, hey, how would I do this? What should I do here? How would I do that? And I realized that that I had something to give to people, and I decided I was going to focus on my coaching business. And that's when, and I made that pivot into business coaching from life coaching. I felt that there was more, it was a better fit for my skill set and my style and my personality. And then, while I was doing that, I did a little bit of life insurance sales. I did some solar sales. And ironically, those are target audiences for my coaching business today, because I have a good handle on those business models. And I'm familiar with how to help them grow and scale. So when I developed my Biz Coaches, it was about 4 years ago. We've made a couple of pivots through COVID and after COVID. We're making adjustments as we grow and scale, but now we have 5 coaches today. We're looking to grow to 10 by the end of first quarter next year, and 20 as we get through the end of 2023. So Business is growing nicely. We're redefining a little bit more how we work our relationships. And part of that comes from our communication, you and I, David, how we collaborate, how we are able to share best practices. And so I think it's another thing. A lot of business owners have a tendency, they get so focused they're on an island, and they forget that there's resources out there that are available to them. And if they would take the time to spend more time working on their business instead of in their business, they'd probably see a lot more value from that. But besides that, I'm still active. I work out on a regular basis. I was actually just on the bag the other day working out. I was feeling pretty good. But despite this cold that I can't seem to shake, but I am happily married to a wonderful woman. We've been together for 22 years now. I have 2 grown children and 3 amazing grandchildren that keep me super active and busy all the time. So sometimes I probably don't get as much time to work as I'd like to, just because I have my grandchildren just pulling me in a million different directions. But I love it and enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thanks for sharing some of your background, and mine won't be as long because I don't have as many years in life as you do. But yeah, I think it's important for people to understand not only, obviously serial entrepreneur, very successful. Great grasp on sales and marketing, like you said, but really the back end business, your accounting background, and just a variety of experience that I think will come up over and over throughout future episodes that people can relate to, and you can relate to entrepreneurs in different industries, different business models, and how to help them out. So I think very worthwhile. Appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, and I'll just take a second to share just a little bit about myself. I think most people that know me professionally kind of refer to me as the training guy, and I wear that title proudly. And it's interesting because inside of the world of talent development, there's kind of a term that we use, which is accidental trainer. And very few people, in their early years of life set out to become a trainer, but a lot of people end up there. And I definitely kind of fall in that camp. There was no desire or goal of mine to work in talent development, throughout my school years and things like that. But I found that was definitely a calling and a passion for me. And it's interesting, Eric talked about really embracing the numbers. Early on, I wanted to work as a physicist and realized that's a lot of math. That's a lot of complex math. And I decided that wasn't for me. And so that kind of led me in the direction of sales, which is actually how Eric and I came to meet. But working in sales and having success there, and then that led to sales management. And then really as a manager, I got my first taste of training and developing people, and realized, man, this is really gratifying and I enjoy this. And one of the biggest, rushes that I got and still get today is when somebody reaches out to me and say, hey, I applied something that I learned from you and it's helped me, get my first big commission check, or it's helped transform my business. And so that, money's great, but actually that's actually more fulfilling and more rewarding for me is to hear that transformation in people's lives. And so that's the biggest rush that I can get. And so really why I love training, why I love talent development, all things learning, that's really my sweet spot. And so kind of through that, as I started working, in training, and so I started, facilitating training, then I started building content, which is referred to as instructional design. And then from there went into training people how to train, leading teams, train the trainer events, things like that, and really kind of the full spectrum, and thought, hey, you know what, I got to see, is there some sort of professional organization or certification out there just to really kind of button up my skill set to make sure, I'm at the top of my game. And so that led me to ATD, which is the Association for Talent Development. It's the largest talent development organization in the world, and they offer certifications referred to as the CPTD, which is Certified Professional in Talent Development. So got that several years ago through ATD, and just really kind of helped me make sure I was thinking about things, globally, international perspective, and looking outside of just my industry, and help broaden my skill set. So super grateful for that experience and the knowledge gained along the way. And then, over my career, I've done, facilitation of workshops to large, public speaking events for over 15 years, 10 years in content development, instructional design, and have really enjoyed that as well. And kind of what that led to is as you build a reputation as the training guy, people reach out, from different organizations or people that you've worked with in the past and say, hey, I've got this problem, I've got this issue. Do you have any training on it? So kind of as that started to come up, Eric will appreciate this. I realized, hey, if people are asking for help, I could probably charge for that. And so that led to freelancing. And then as I started getting more freelancing, thought, man, I should just start my own consulting company. And that's led to the TLG group, which is Train, Lead, Grow. And that's what we do now. So we refer to ourselves as a full service learning and leadership consultancy. So we offer training for really everyone from time management, communication, and more. We also have training that's specialized for leaders, both at the organization level, across the organization, or even just individual managers, entrepreneurs, first-time managers, all the way up to executive coaching. That's all part of our solution offering. We also do fully customizable consulting. So if you've got a specific challenge or you want a training program developed, we do all of that from design to implementation and everything in between. And so we like to say if you have people challenges, we have people solutions. And we have a wide array of solutions and custom solutions that really fit any need. And so as I've continued to do the consulting and continuing to work with and through ATD, I've had an opportunity to contribute some content to their TD at Work series. And then I've also had an opportunity to be a contributing author to ATD's handbook on training and talent development, which is kind of the premier document for all talent development professionals. And my writing is alongside folks like Ken Blanchard and Bob Pike, and just feel super honored and grateful for the opportunity to contribute to that. So that's kind of professionally what I'm all about. Personally, I'm a husband and a father to one son. And I love bulldogs, not the sports team, the dog breed. So French bulldogs, English bulldogs. I'm a bit of a fan. I think I follow more bulldogs on Instagram than people. Kind of a fun fact. Love the outdoors, love camping, hiking, national parks. That's what we love to do as a family. And then kind of my new hobby that I'm trying to become an expert at, and it's proving to be a little bit more challenging and elusive than I would have thought, is smoking meat. So right now my goal is to master the perfect brisket. So if there's any folks out there listening that have tips, we'd love to get your tips on brisket, because it's a challenging medium for a scientist or artist in the meat smoking game to master. So that's a bit about me, Eric.
Appreciate that, David. It's interesting about the smoking meats. I'm just not that patient. If I can take a fillet and put it on the grill and be done with it in 10 minutes, that's about the amount of time I have for cooking.
Yeah, and there's days when I wake up at 3 a.m. to start a smoke. I wonder, why am I doing this to myself?
Exactly.
I can understand the perspective, but it's all worth it in the end. So
see, now I spent the better part of my career getting up at 3 o'clock. Either I was writing a book or I was going to the gym. So,
right.
Yeah.
Hey, and you could have had smoked meat at the end of it. See?
You go. Yeah. I don't think that would have happened. It would have been burnt. It would have been burnt meat, not smoked meat.
Yeah, there you go. So awesome. Well, hey, that's just a bit about Eric and I. I'm sure you'll learn more about us and our experience individually and collectively in future episodes. And as I alluded to earlier in the show, some of the things that we're going to be talking about, what you can expect. But Eric, I'm curious, what are some of the things that you're most excited to talk about and explore in this show?
Well, as we talked about, David, I think one of the biggest opportunities for my business as my biz coaches is the opportunity to just help business owners, right? I mentioned it briefly before. Oftentimes, small business owners feel like they're on an island, isolated with no resources or very limited resources, and they're struggling to make challenging decisions about their business, right? And there's a number of things going on all the time. We referenced in a couple of scenarios that you and I managed through with the 2008 economic setback, right? I mean, there was COVID. Now again, we're going through another aggressive recession, but potentially depression, right? So all of these types of things are factors that small business owners, over and above, just your normal everyday employee issues, right? Now you got the Great Resignation on top of things like that. So there's so many different things that a business owner, small or large, doesn't matter, that it has to manage through and deal with. And so for my biz coaches, what I've recognized is we had, at least when I started out more as a consultant than a coach. And it was, it's a higher ticket approach, right? And we're coming in for multiple $1,000s a month to come in along side by side, do a fractional COO role, generally speaking, and help implement changes in businesses. What I realized is that's it's rewarding for me. However, I can only help so many businesses. So I began to look at it and say, okay, well, how can we help other businesses? But then what I realized was there are so many different ways that we can help businesses.
Yeah.
With all the different experiences, myself, yourself, right? We can, when we collaborate and we kind of go into all the different ways that we can impact a business, with all the experience that we've been able to collectively pull together, and some of the coaches that I have also with their experience, there's just no way to collaborate, share all the different ways we can help a business. So by doing this show and chronicling either success stories with businesses, experiences that we've had in the past, and just really kind of talk about some of the different ways we've been able to impact different businesses, solutions we've been able to provide, whatever it might be, in an open forum like this where there's no charge, people can listen in, get some gauge on, what they can learn from us, and then say, hey, you know what, see some value here. Maybe we can partner up with these guys. And I love having this as a free resource for people so they can get a feel for what's available out there. Because I think, in my opinion, I think that the coaching world has exploded a bit, and that's one thing I would say, and good and bad, right? Whenever you have that kind of explosive growth, and we experienced it when we were growing our sales organizations. When you grow too fast, the quality isn't quite as good as you'd like it to be. So I'm not suggesting there's a lot of unqualified coaches out there, but I am suggesting that there are better coaches than others. And helping the people define that and understand that is super important. And I'd like for people not to have a bad taste in their mouth about a bad coaching experience when they could have a better experience. And so if this helps more people find the right resources, then that's what I'd like them to do. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to suggest that I have every solution for every scenario. I don't think you would either, David. I think you're both very practical when it comes to that. But if I don't know, I probably know somebody who does, right? If there's certain components of the business development that I'm very confident in, there's other components that I'm not as much, which is why we moved from being an individual business consulting to bringing in other coaches so that we can touch more and more businesses. Yeah. Despite all my background, there's lots of other places we can go with this, and bringing in other people with other experiences, all your knowledge in the learning and development and leadership development, things like that. We can collaborate with creating content. All of those different pieces are so valuable to these small businesses.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you've said. And I think one of the things that we've talked about in our vision for the show is, because we don't know it all, we know a lot, we don't know it all, bringing in, experts in various fields and doing interviews and, extending that network, I think is important too. And definitely the trending topics that you like to talk about. In fact, I think for a lot of episodes, we'll be pulling headlines and just talking about them, breaking it down for what does this mean for entrepreneurs and what can we learn from this? And I think that'll be helpful too. And then I think, for me, and I know you feel similarly, it's really about creating that community, right? Because a lot of entrepreneurs do feel isolated, or they don't know, who to go to for help, or maybe at this point in time, they can't afford a coach, but they know they need some direction and guidance, and they'd love to aspire to bring on a coach or a consultant. And so I think for me, it's grown that community. And just engaging with entrepreneurs, hearing their challenges, we'll have multiple times be asking for what are challenges that, our listeners are facing, and giving that practical advice and guidance. And I think one of the things you touched on is, I definitely agree, there's a wide spectrum of quality coaches out there, right? And how you define quality. But I think sometimes the solutions are a little fluffy. And I think you and I are very focused on practical, time-tested, what we know works and is going to make that immediate improvement. And that's really what people need, right? When it's your paycheck is based on your business's profitability, we want to make sure we're giving you practical advice that's going to help you, grow and scale and improve that business. So definitely some stuff that I'm excited about too.
Agreed.
So, well, the last thing we want to do, Eric, was give people just a little preview of kind of what to expect from future episodes. And I know you and I have gone back and forth about an article that we saw relating to the economy, and kind of an alarming statistic that 37% of all small business owners couldn't pay their rent in October of 2022. And even more specifically, 49% of restaurateurs couldn't pay their rent in October of 2022. And so as we look at that, Eric, what are some of your thoughts on that, and what can we kind of learn from that stat, and what would be your overall insights?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that the first thing is you asked the question, how could they not be able to pay rent, right? And if we've determined whether or not we're in a recession, ironically, I was watching a podcast the other day, and they were chronicling the number of recessions we've had over the last 50 years. Well, since World War II, so since 1945. But what they recognized was that by the time the government actually officially acknowledges we're in a recession, more often than not, we're 6 months into the recession. Yeah. Right, based on the numbers when they actually look at it, because in a lot of this, that actually speaks to a whole other topic that we could spend time on, and we could probably spend an entire call on, which is data. Yeah, having data provided. Siri wanted to listen in on our call. So having data provided in a timely manner that you can actually make important decisions on is super important. As a matter of fact, one of the first things, as my business coach, is one of the things we sit down with owners and help them understand. What are the 10 key metrics that you measure, right? Well, if you're measuring those 7 to 10 key metrics and you're paying real close attention to them, you're going to know before the end of the month whether or not you can pay the rent. Right. Right. And so for to have that many businesses not be able to pay rent in the month of October, that means that we're having a pretty significant impact in the economy out there. And my wife is in the real estate industry, and so we've seen this playing out in the months leading up to this, because what you often find is that the real estate market is a leading indicator of where the stock market is going to go. Mm. And now, how is that relevant to a business owner? Well, if you see that the real estate market is kind of shriveling and things are not going well there, you see that new home sales have slowed down. Now that means that's 2 million real estate agents in the nation that their commissions are cut in half or a third because people aren't buying and selling homes. Right. That's also 300,000 mortgage officers out there that aren't bringing in as much revenue as they're accustomed to. So you see massive layoffs in the real estate industry, and then there's a number of other layoffs out there as well. But what it really means to the guy who's trying to pay rent in their small business, you're not going to have the same number of people coming into your restaurant. People are not going to spend the same amount of money. They're not going to, and to add to that, we just went through COVID, where many of the exact same companies that we're talking about got their teeth kicked in during COVID because of a mandatory shutdown. And now they probably used up any reserves that they had. Many of them had to take the lifeline of the PPP or the EIDL loan or something like that to get through the difficult time. They're probably still paying those debts off, the EIDL loan anyway. And now, consequently, we're going through another economic downturn, and they're struggling with, how do I pay the rent? Because they don't have the reserves to get through the slow times. And holidays, depending on your business model, holidays could be really good or really bad depending on where you're at. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, and giving people good advice is going to be super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you talk about, looking at the data, and I think what a lot of business owners will do is they'll look at, what are the largest line items on their P&L, right? And labor, of course, is going to be right there at the top. And so I think one of the things we both caution against is, knee-jerk reactions and not thinking about the ripple effect of the decisions that we make. And for me, when we immediately jump to, hey, I'm going to reduce my staff, or I'm going to cut hours, we don't necessarily think about the ripple effect of that. And from just a training perspective, right, when you do let go of staff immediately, right, that's going to cause a lot of issues with the employees that do remain. But then beyond that, at some point, you're going to need to hire people back, right? So, if you get through that lean time and all of a sudden you're starting to, get more revenue coming in and you can hire more people, right now, it's really tough to hire good people. I mean, every business is every business is facing that. And so not only are you struggling to hire people that were as good as or better than the people you just let go, but the acquisition cost of that new talent is so much higher. You have to retrain all of those people. And so there's a lot of factors that we don't think about. And so it may be more costly in the long run to actually reduce staff to get through a temporary lean season than to maybe keep that staff. And usually what I would advise is just being really candid with your employees about those business challenges. And I think that's an issue that a lot of companies have, is they want to hide the fact that, we're not doing well, or things aren't as good as we thought they'd be, or we didn't meet our forecasts. And so I think when we're honest and upfront with our employees, especially if you're a good leader and you've led your team well and you have good leaders working for you, people may endure that temporary pain with you if they know on the other end of it, things are going to be good for them and for the business. And so I think just, looking at the data, as Eric mentioned, I think, don't immediately look at reducing staff or maybe even cutting hours, and really being upfront about the challenges you're facing are going to help you in the long run. So those are just be my thoughts, Eric. And I think that's a good sample of what people can expect from future episodes.
Yeah. I'd add one more thing to what you just said, David, which is you mentioned that owners have a tendency to not want to share the bad news.
Yeah.
Do you really think they don't see it?
Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's at the end of the day, assuming you hired decent people, right? They're relatively observant. They're going to recognize that not as many people are coming in. It's not going to take much to figure out things are down. If 49% of restaurants couldn't pay their rent, I'm going to venture to say that there's a lot of bartenders and barmaids and waiters and servers and they're all realizing their tips are down dramatically.
Yeah.
Right. It's not hard to figure that stuff out. So to your point, being open and honest with them and help them understand will go a long way to gaining loyalty.
Yeah.
Right. And making the transition, the pivot through that. It's great insight. These are the types of things that I get really excited about as far as trying to help people navigate. We've been through some of these scenarios ourselves personally with our businesses. And so this is an important component, as we make a pivot through this recession and what is this going to look like for people?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little tee up for our next episode, we are going to be talking about kind of the layoffs and the resignations that are happening. So if this is something that's impacting your business, we definitely encourage you to subscribe and follow us, because we're going to be diving into that topic, at least in the next episode. And I don't know, Eric, may take a couple to really unpack that. So stay tuned with us. It's going to be a big topic for the first part of our show here. So when wrapping things up, Eric, where can they learn more about My Biz Coaches?
I appreciate that. Yeah. So it's just go to www.mybizcoaches.com. And you can go there to learn more about what we do and what we offer. We are going through a website redevelopment. So it'll be new and improved in the coming weeks. So I'll be excited to launch that here in December. But everything you need to know about what we do is there. And then you can always schedule a free consultation. We provide a 45-minute consultation where we assess your business and help you understand where we see opportunities, and we can help you improve and grow your business.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, and for TLG Group, head over to trainleadgrow.com. You can also connect with us on social media. Just use @trainleadgrow on your favorite social media platform, and we'd love to connect with you there. And I think I speak for Eric and I when I say thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you join us for future episodes. And again, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out. And we'll see you next time on the Biz Coach Show. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, David.